All right, so the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. What we saw occur and what is still occurring in Central Texas right now is nothing less than a horrible, horrible tragedy. It is not caused by man-made climate change. It is not Donald Trump's fault. It's not a Democrat's fault. We live in a fallen world, and sometimes things like this occur. But when things like this occur, when tragedies like this occur, as a human being, as an American citizen, I think it's incumbent upon us, throw our political beliefs aside and do the right thing and focus on saving those that can be rescued and then praying with the family members, or at least being kind to the family members. We didn't see that from the left, and you're not going to see that from the left. I want you to understand that those that are on the left are not a compassionate people. I'm not talking about the laymen in the Democrat Party, but I'm speaking generally. And again, the left, they're not compassionate people, and they've proved it yet again. They prove it with their policies. They prove it with their rhetoric. And it's going to be incumbent upon us that I believe that are Christian and just decent-hearted people to show an example and lead the way. However, I do want to make sure that during this show we give you some information just so that you're fully aware. We are going to combat the liberal arguments, the left-wing arguments, because I want you to be informed. And as much as I'm frustrated with some of the nasty stuff that I've seen out there, the nasty stuff that I've read, some of the beautiful stories as well, and more stories to come, I'm sure we got to take on the left. We got to take on the left. It's extremely, extremely important that we take on their arguments. And again, I don't like to politicize this stuff. Too late, the left already has. And so we have to knock the lies out of the park. We have to knock them out of the park. So let me again, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. It's a very important scripture to understand. I'm sitting here and I was hearing about the tragedies. I was thinking about these young girls and these adults, many heroine, just heroic stories that we've heard. And I just put myself in that particular, I put myself in the camp. And I thought about if I was an adult, I thought about if I was a kid, one of these kids, what it must have been like. I heard the story of a man that was flashing an SOS flashlight, SOS signal, while you could hear young girls screaming in the background, just fearful, just completely scared for their lives. And many of these lives have been lost. They, in fact, lost their lives. There was a harrowing story. I believe it was a father who bust through a glass to try to get to his family, cut his arm, cut his artery to save them. He bled out and he died. Stories like this, although they are sad, although they are gruesome, I believe that a lot of these people, if not all of these people, were saved and they're on their way to heaven. But the left, there's a different story to tell, because there was even a doctor, a pediatrician that came out. I'm sure you guys heard the story. I need to find the story. I saw it on Daily Wire earlier. And this lady has since, I believe it was a female physician, if I'm not mistaken, that has since been dismissed, and rightfully dismissed from her position. And this lady was wishing all of those, basically saying, listen, man, you voted for Donald Trump. You got exactly what you deserve. This is a pediatrician. I want you to understand the left isn't compassionate. And I want you to think about that. Wrap your heads around that. A pediatrician, young girls died. And because this region of the country are Trump supporters, are more conservative, even though the camp, the young girls at the camp came from all different parts of the United States, but because this region is red, a pediatrician that is supposed to care for the sick, that's supposed to care for kids, that they got what they deserved. Because the left is incapable of compassion. I need you to understand that. I need you to get that. This is why we can't have them in positions of power. When I heard what that lady had said, and I'll find it later, when I heard what she said, I was like, man, she should be fired. And I stopped and thought, you know what? The truth of the matter is we're low on nurses. We're low on doctors. We need her. But I'm glad this institution, I believe it was called Bluefish Pediatrics, if I recall correctly, they went ahead and gave her the boot, and rightfully so. absolutely disgusting. I don't want people with that type of heart practicing medicine. Unfortunately, we are desperate for doctors and nurses. But just imagine that. Somebody that's supposed to save life is sitting there just kind of gloating about young girls, men and women losing their lives. Man, what a horrible, despicable, if you ever hear this, Doc, what a horrible, despicable person you are. I pray to God for your soul. I hope that you get saved. I hope one day you believe in the Hippocratic Oath, which you took. Or I hope you leave the profession because you're disgusting. You're despicable. And so are the people on the left that have made this about climate change and man-made climate change, which is an absolute and complete and utter hoax. Is there any doubt that human beings influence the climate? I believe to a certain extent. I'm talking about so minuscule it doesn't even register on the maps. But I think God knew that. I think God knew that when he created us. So I don't think that's something that we're going to have to worry about. That isn't to say that we shouldn't be wise stewards of our planet. Of course we should. But we're not to be so narcissistic as to believe that we're going to be able to control the climate, that we're going to be able to control the environment. All you have to do is go back in the past and look at Iceland, Greenland. This makes no sense. Before it, I've even got stories from climatedepot.com. This area of Texas is highly prone to those types of flash floods. They built dams in the early 20th century as a result of them. So you're going to tell me this is about man-made climate change? No. Sadly, the left they're not compassionate people.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.